the resellers here are like buying up 100 pairs. They're buying up 200 pairs. They're buying up 1,000 pairs.
What up? What up? Welcome to the Sneaker History Podcast. My name is Nick Engvall, and I am stoked to talk to one of my friends in this whole sneaker thing. You might know him as Shanghai Soul. Jay has been kind of keeping the States in the loop in terms of the sneaker market in China. So just want to catch up with him based on a few of our recent conversations and stuff that has been going on. I thought, he was a great guest before. If you haven't checked that episode out, I'll definitely link to it. But Jay, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Hey, Nick. Thanks for having me. It's good to be on. And you were saying I'm keeping the States informed. I might be keeping the States angry because I'm getting a lot of messages lately, blowing up my DMs, man, asking me to be the proxy, asking me to be the plug, asking me what the heck is going on. And yeah, people are real upset. Not at me per se, but yeah, about the whole sneaker industry right now. It's a wild time right now.
Yeah, it really is, man. And it's, we had an interesting conversation within the last couple of weeks on the podcast about, whether or not the brands are trying to sign athletes, celebrities, et cetera, from different countries in order to kind of just play the game and appeal to that market. And I think that that's a really, it's probably very accurate, right? Like the brands at this point, with COVID laid on top of all the other struggles that are going on, you have just a massive amount of stress, numbers not being hit, supply chain issues. There's so much layered onto it that I can't blame someone who works at one of these companies to say, well, let's just try this, because I think everybody's looking at the numbers going, hey, we're not going to come anywhere close to hitting what we told our investors. And that just, unfortunately, once you get into that mode as a business, it never is good for the consumer, right? And I think that's where,
right,
I don't want to say it's a good approach. I just think that I say that I understand how they could get to that point. But one of the things that, I kind of threw towards you before we started recording, the idea that a brand like a Nike or Jordan brand or Adidas or any of the big major brands, right, would still think that they could just sign an athlete from China, Japan, the Philippines. Like we've seen everybody trying this. And it seems to me like that is like, haven't you already learned and haven't we already passed this stage of this last ditch effort to capture an audience or really connect with the consumers in a different country or a different location? Do you think that do you have any examples of that actually working in your mind that you can think of? Because I couldn't think of any that like weren't very like short hits, right? And we talked a lot about Kobe the last time you were on, and Kobe is kind of the opposite of that, right? Like they're all in, like China gets probably arguably better colorways, sometimes more silhouettes, even like there's just so much more, massive marketing appeal or marketing approach to that, as opposed to just like, cool, we did this and we signed this player. And I just feel like I feel like it's just a total miss. I don't know.
So I guess we're going to speak to like, supply issues later. So like there is something I want to talk about, which you brought up earlier, but I don't want to touch on that right now because I know we'll talk about it later. But in terms of like the Asian PEs and stuff like that, it's a mixed bag because I remember when Jordan Brand signed Guo Ailun, who is China's first Jordan Brand athlete. It was a really big deal here. Like it was everywhere in the Nike stores, like his photos everywhere. So it used to be Yi Jianlian, because he's considered like, like one of the best players. And, unfortunately he didn't do well in the NBA, but, playing in China, he was a beast. But he was never signed to a Jordan deal. He always had a Nike deal. He had his own Nike deal, which was like, Yi colorways, right? Obviously a lot of red and gold, red and yellow. So he had these unique Nike PEs, and those always did, okay. And his face was always plastered in the Nike stores, but now it's Guo because of his Jordan brand deal. But the thing is that no one outside of China knows who he is. You know what I mean? Like I remember when my buddies on the Sneak Diz were like, yo, like Jordan Brand signed their first Chinese athlete. That's pretty cool. They had no idea who he was. They've never seen him play. And no one from the States would have seen him play unless it's the Olympics and he's their starting point guard. And even then, China doesn't do very well. So you don't get to see him like in the later rounds anyway. So it's more of a national pride thing, but it doesn't move product, his colorways are fire though. Like if you've seen Guo's colorways for his Jordan PEs, they're like one of the best. Like because he loves incorporating that kind of like Tiffany blue, that Tiffany jade color.
Yeah.
And so his 32s, 33s, 34s, like they all look really unique. He probably won't get his own signature shoe. He'll only get these, kind of cool PEs. It doesn't really do anything. People in China don't even really like go out hard for it. It doesn't sell out. Like you can get those PEs pretty readily anytime you want. Like they're not in super high demand. People will know that that's the Guo PE, but it won't sell out any faster than like a Tatum PE or a Zion PE. And then with Rui, it's the same idea. Like I have to say, like Rui's probably got one of the best PEs from Jordan Brand in the last couple of years. Like
I agree.
His cherry blossoms, like the cherry blossom, like 35s, I think. Man, those things are sick. Like all mint with the pink cherry blossoms on them. Like, and then I'm sure you guys have talked about the 8s that are coming. Like great looking shoe, but I mean, I don't even know if those are hitting the masses. Like those cherry blossom ones never released. Those are, I think, strictly like friends and family and PE only. So I don't know if those 8s are going to be a GR or not, but it's the same thing. Like I would assume people in Japan will be like, oh, that's awesome. Like national pride. But in terms of them shelling out crazy money for it, it's not happening here. I doubt it's happening in Japan either.
Yeah. And it seems like with Guo, he is probably, obviously from the pictures you post on your Instagram, that there's no trickle down of like, oh, we gave him a PE, so maybe people will buy retros, right? Like there's no, like if people aren't buying those, PE colorways, and he had, I think the 34 that he had was like probably one of my favorite colorways of the last few years too. Like that, like the jade color that you talked about. But like, to me, if I'm at Jordan Brand and I'm thinking about making the Jordan 8 for Rui, why doesn't, I don't know, you got Russell Westbrook in LA right now. Like you've got the biggest market in the States outside of New York to do that with. And, who knows the timing wise, I said this in a previous episode. I think that there's probably a lot of timing issues going on with the way these shoes are developed and made and even shipped over, because that could have been something that was a year ago or 2 years ago that it was supposed to be here, or it might have filled in and been pushed up to replace a different thing because there's so many other supply chain issues. But I think it's interesting because we talked about it on in our previous conversation about, athletes that are signed to Chinese brands actually having a huge following there and their products actually selling well at a lot of these places. How can, is it a matter of national pride, do you think, but between those brands, or is it just that there's more too, right? Because I feel like someone like Klay Thompson, for instance, he's getting a lot more, right? It's not just cool, we made this retro product or we made this PE. There's a lot more to it. He's, and I don't know, maybe with these other guys, are they getting marketing dollars beyond like the store walls and stuff? Are you seeing like actual events happening and anything like that to get it going? Or
I think, I think what you were saying was really spot on. It's kind of gimmicky. They're like, oh, we got to hit the Japanese market. Let's give the only Japanese player in the NBA a PE. Or,
yeah,
it's like, oh, we need a Chinese face in Jordan Brand. Who are we going to give it to? Let's give it to the starting point guard on the Chinese national team. Um, and there's no I've seen some Guo T-shirts before, but like even with Clay, you were talking about Clay and his Anta deal. Like he gets a lot. Like they do
yeah,
shirts, they do shorts, they do like it's like the whole line, right? It's like it's what we were talking about with Wade. He has a whole line of Way of Wade. The Way of Wade has become the subsidiary of Li Ning now. It's just like how Jordan Brand is under Nike. Um, it that's what Wade's deal looks like, because when you go to a Li Ning store, you'll see a section that's only Wade stuff. Um, I would assume Clay is kind of moving towards that, but like there's nothing like that for Rui. Like you go in there, it's just a standalone PE,
yeah,
which to be honest with you, I've never even seen on shelf before. Like any of those ones that we were talking about, those have never been released. The Guo ones are released; those are public. But he doesn't have a line or anything, and there's no like story. I think his first pair there was like some story behind it, but the ones afterwards are just like, oh, this is just the Guo PE. It's like, oh, okay, so basically you're just giving me a Nike ID then. Like, what's the
yeah,
difference, right? Like, if I can
yep,
just design this, then what's the difference? You're not telling me anything. Like, no story, no accessories, no anything. So it's not enough to drive consumers to be like, oh, I feel really connected. I really vibe with the story. I understand the colors. Yeah, it doesn't. It's very disconnected.
yeah. Do you think? I mean, do you think there's any interest in like or any conversation? Let's say for the guys that are actually playing ball in these shoes, is he enough of a persona to drive people to buy a shoe, or is there enough belief in Jordan Brand in their technology? Because here in the States, obviously Jordan Brand is like almost tries to elevate themselves as the elite basketball shoe on the market. Is there enough of that for people to buy a shoe just to play in to see if they like it the way, like, I know here now we have like another level of that because we have so many people doing reviews on YouTube and stuff. But it seems like
Mm-hmm.
there's a general curiosity about all new Jordan models in the States. And my assumption outside of the States is that just doesn't exist anywhere. And maybe the thought is maybe this partnership could lead to that. Do you think that's even a feasible idea for somebody like
So
that?
do people will people buy like a Guo PE? Yes, because there is like that sense of national pride. It's not about what brand he's wearing. It's more about him. Like
Gotcha. Okay.
if he was wearing Anta, people would buy Anta, So it's definitely not about Jordan Brand. It's more about Guo and him being Chinese and him, like people liking the way he plays basketball. Now, the reason why you don't see a lot of people I would say you don't see that many people in like the newest Jordans, like 36s, for example, is because they're really expensive. Like there's still a big outdoor basketball culture in China. A lot of people play outdoors, like, and I know for myself, I still play basketball now. I would be really hard pressed to spend 250 and wear it on a gravel cement basketball court and just tear it to shreds. Like I know they're meant to be worn, and I know Nike Asia, we get a lot of the XDR outsoles for like better, more thicker rubber. I know Nightwing talks about that all the time. He's like the different components in the makeup for
Yep.
shoes in Asia. It's because there's a large outdoor hoop culture here, but a lot of the kids, I mean, they're mostly kids, like high schoolers, college students. Like first of all, they don't have 250, 260 to just shell out normally. And if they did, they're not wearing them to play basketball outside. That's for damn sure. So, um, does the tech matter? Yes, but to a high school kid who doesn't even have like 150, 120 bucks, $100 to spend on basketball shoes, there's no way.
Yeah. And then like with, we brought up Clay. I can't remember what like the retail is on his shoes, but it's got to be in like the 140 range or lower, right? For a lot of the other brands.
So like his shoes, he comes out with a shoe every year, which is really crazy. Like people don't even know that. And
yeah,
I think he does also have like takedown models of his shoes, which is kind of like LeBron and his Soldier line, right? Where it's like a takedown. I think his high end stuff is maybe like it might be like 150 and up a little bit.
That makes sense. I mean, it is interesting because like the takedown, I mean, I just went to the outlets for the first time in probably 2 years and walk through, like normally I go to like basically Reebok, New Balance and Nike and the rest is like, whatever. I don't really need to walk through the rest, but I basically went through all the stores at one of the outlets near me. And when I walked into the Under Armour store, I didn't realize that like Steph Curry has a takedown line that's 4 or 5 shoes deep now. And then I started looking at more stuff online, just thinking like, how many other people have I missed that have these takedown shoes? Because the brands don't, they're not trying to get it in front of the sneakerheads. They're just trying to have it at the outlets or the Dick's Sporting Goods or, equivalent, right? Because that's where the kids that play ball are going to buy their shoes.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy that there's not, more to that, right? Because we just talked about it recently on an episode, like LeBron won arguably his most important title in the Soldier, like that's kind of a crazy thing to think about in the big picture. But like that also makes you pay attention to the secondary or whatever line that comes underneath the main, the main focus. Right. And I was thinking about our conversation about Wade, like you brought up, and him having such a big kind of presence there. Do you think that, do you think that that's kind of the next evolution for the Wade brand too, is like what keeps Wade, under, obviously under the Li Ning banner, but like what keeps Way of Wade from signing one of these athletes, especially like with Guo, right? Like the Jordan brand, if they're not doing enough, he's not going to stick around, right? Like if the partnership isn't beneficial for both sides, somebody ends up wanting out of it and he moves on. But it's almost like that seems like an easy, like win situation. Do you see that as something that happens in China, or is that something where like Wade would sign somebody for the States because the Way of Wade brand has a little bit more presence here than Li Ning?
So I definitely don't see Way of like, I'm just speaking from like if I were like running Way of Wade, right? Like if I were running Way of Wade, I don't think I would sign someone here because it's already big. It's already big here. So like I would try to sign someone in the States and get more exposure out in the States. Yeah. Like if I could sign, what team is he owning right now? What team does he have?
The Utah Jazz. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we talked about this last time, right? Like, why not have Li Ning jerseys, right? Like Li Ning Utah jerseys, like just sponsor the whole team, just hook up the entire, like that is like a massive way to get it out there, so like that's where I would take it for that, for Way of Wade. And then in terms of just like the whole takedown thing, it's like I don't know if we talked about this last time, but a lot of the shoes out here, like Anta and Li Ning, like they're not the takedown model, but more like their version of the Hyperdunk, right? Which is like their flagship model. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those shoes, man, they're really good basketball shoes. Like I have a pair of the Anta Sonic Nines, and they are in heavy rotation when I play basketball because they throw all their stuff in it. Like that's the thing that I hate that what Nike does lately is that they give Giannis, whose new shoe I think looks really good, but it wasn't until this model where they like added full length zoom. Like for the longest time, it was only like 4-foot zoom, or it was only heel zoom. And same with Kyrie. I mean, I know that they have a say in it because maybe that's what they prefer because it is still their shoe. But how are you not throwing your best stuff into your signature athletes? And then like with the Sonic Nines, it's like they put all their top cushioning in it. They put all this like really good material in it. And so I don't feel as a consumer like I'm not getting my money's worth. Like if you want me to spend like 160, 170 on a basketball shoe, I want to make sure that it's got everything that you guys have in it. Like I don't want just Cushlon and then no full length zoom. Like I know you have full length zoom. Why'd you just give me this small pod of zoom when you normally put like this big of one in LeBron's shoe? Like what's up with that? I'm not trying to pay for that.
Yep. Well, and that's, you make a great point too, because if Giannis, who just won his first title and, MVP, and like, look, if he's not worthy of having full length zoom or whatever your best technology is, like how does this even make sense? Right. Like
100%.
Yeah. And kind of on top of that, like the running stuff has been progressing so far ahead and up in the price points that I'm kind of concerned that when they start pushing all that new technology over to basketball, it's going to raise basketball prices again. They kind of have done that in various little spots, but none of the shoes, because the guys are all playing in like Kobe Protros or, a lot of KDs, a lot of Kyries and those types, you don't see the technology become a talking point for NBA shoes other than like LeBron or whatever the Jordan signature model is. But like, so what's retail on the Li-Ning Sonic 9, do you think about?
They are, hold on, let me do a conversion real quick. They are, about like 100 to like 110.
Yeah. See, and that's what's so crazy. I feel like just as a consumer and who's somebody who's like been passionate about this and working in this space for the past 15 years or so, I am like absolutely concerned for where basketball shoes go if everyone thinks that Jordan brand makes the best shoes or that Nike makes the best shoes, yet there's all these other brands that are making incredible product for, 2/3 of the price or half the price. Because it's I guess to get to like the conversation about the stuff that you see in store, right? That's what's going to happen eventually if there's not this like almost like resetting of the market, in my opinion.
Yep. I mean, like for example, like the new LeBrons, the 19s, they are, after conversion, they are 250 here for us. Like, wow. That's a lot of money, man. Like that's a lot. And if you play ball seriously, I mean, and you love LeBron, I can see it because that's what people are paying for shoes nowadays. It seems like dunks are even, you can't buy dunks for under 250 now, which is crazy. But yeah, it's like $250 and I can go to a leaning store and I can pick up a pair of these, of their hyper dunks for, 110. It's like, it's a pretty no brainer for me.
Yeah. Do you think that is there a connection at all between like performance basketball shoes and retro product in the consumer's mind in China? Because obviously that's what's kind of told to us, and the marketing is to say, you know, inspired by the greatest ever, and like, you know, but then there's all the sneaker culture below that that's like, yeah, well, this is just hype, and these people are going to be into it regardless, and you know, there's all sorts of ways you can kind of slice that up. But it sounds like what you're saying is there's no real connection between like retro product on the wall and like the energy that goes into like, or the, you know, the kids that are out there playing in Nikes or whatever, not necessarily going back and buying retro product for their kind of casual shoes.
I think people are still like, I mean, Nike's marketing is, it's like the best in the world, you know? So
Yeah.
people just eat up the retro stuff. They're like, give me the story. Forget the product, like forget the quality. Like let me play some basketball in some, you know, in some Jordan 10s and Jordan 2s and Jordan 1s. Like I want to look cool when I do it. I don't care if there's Zoom Air. I don't care if there's just cardboard inside.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that still trumps quality and performance.
So do you think, how do you think that, you know, or I guess I should say, like, what do you think changes would have to happen for there to be, I guess, like the kind of energy around retro product that there is here in the States, right? Like, obviously, you know, the platforms that resell stuff can take up some of that demand, but like those exist basically everywhere now. So you can buy and resell anywhere in the world if you really wanted to. But it also seems like, you know, from the pictures that you post and like just from my recent trips to see what's on at the stores, it seems like a lot of the stuff is just kind of fading anyway. But it seems like there, it's already like nobody cares about the retro product on most of that stuff. Is that the case?
So like, I do think it is part of the case. Like, I don't think people care. Like people, it's so many factors, and it's so funny because I feel like this is a great time for us to be talking about this again, because when we talked about it the first time, it was I remember you were very like shocked by like, you know, the political aspect of it. You were like, oh, I didn't know that was happening. I wonder, like it was in the very early stages. Like that was probably a week, like it happened like maybe 1 or 2 weeks afterwards, and then we talked. And then this is now the effects of it, like, you know, however many months later. It's very real how much the political aspect of it has affected. And I know we'll talk about the NBA portion of it later. But it's fatigue. People aren't buying shoes to resell. Like we said, like I said before, it's like the resellers here are very different from the resellers in the States. Resellers in the States are, you know, one person, like let's just say you're a reseller, for example. You buy 3 pairs and you try to make $20-$30 profit, and you know, you call it a day and you move on to the next pair. Like resellers here don't really operate like that. Like the resellers here are like buying up 100 pairs. They're buying up 200 pairs. They're buying up 1,000 pairs. And there isn't the little reseller. There isn't the me and you reseller as much anymore. And so when the big dogs have moved on, now you got all this product left. Like because the little guys weren't buying it anyway. They didn't have the money to buy it anyway. So they were like, oh, okay, well, there isn't that demand of, oh, let me buy up all these lightnings real quick and see what I can do with it. Like they're afraid of it sitting supplied. And this is going back to what you were saying earlier. I no doubt, I 100% believe that because of COVID and shipping issues and all the stuff sitting in cargo ships, they're just like, let's just allocate shipment here. Like it's made here, let's just keep it here. Why are we sending all this stuff to be sitting in boats for months at a time and then pushing release dates back by months and weeks and all of those things? Like, why don't we just sell it here? And because of that, there's a lot more quantity. And I think they've kind of like, not on purpose, but they kind of like shot themselves in the foot a little bit. You know what I mean? Because they like flooded the market here. And now the resale game is really just moved on.
Yeah, that's something that I hadn't really thought of or hadn't really connected the dots on, I guess, because I I guess like in my mind, I don't really think of like, because there's still so many shoes coming out, I don't really think about, you know, how many actually make it over, what shipments, like all the things that could delay or cause somebody to think, hey, we should just sell that in China because it's already there. Or, like, as you said before we started recording, things have been open there for, a year plus. Right. So
yeah. Yep.
That's another interesting thing about this is like here in the States, when I walked into, I walked into a mall for the first time probably like 3 months ago, actually right after we talked probably. So a little bit longer than that. And I just basically was like kind of just blown away because like there's a bunch of stores that are completely gone and closed within the malls. You can rent space for super cheap in like big malls too, right? Like we were down in San Jose and we did like a little sneaker history meetup. And there's just empty stores, like there was a Foot Locker and a House of Hoops was there, but like I think there's a Shoe Palace, but like there was just a lot of stuff that just was not there. But seeing what was on the shelves, like there's retro product and even like, performance product that is sold out online, but it's sitting there in a store. And here in the States, that makes sense because you still got to have that product in store for people that are getting back out there into their normal shopping routines and stuff. But that's also like, the reason that I could see a lot of things sitting is because people are just still not 100% comfortable. Like we're still, we are now, but like 6 months ago, 9 months ago, like you're just getting the first vaccine rolled out type stuff. So you're not even, a lot of people were still kind of playing it safe. But there you've had like probably, I feel like it's almost like probably well before we last talked, but like heavily in the last, 6 months, product just sitting. And like that's definitely not like a consumer fear driven thing like it could be if right. COVID existed, as you said, like it was a pretty heavy lockdown there to like keep it under control. That's another interesting part that I just think is like, I don't know, just fascinating. And I wonder if like I wonder if any other places have similar, a similar situation where, things have been open longer than the States have. So you have product that's just kind of there waiting for people to get to, and people are just passing on it the same way that you're seeing in China. Cause it seems like every store you go into, there's at least retro products sitting like that if you look on a website here, like StockX or GOAT or something, in theory, it should be, sold out.
Right. I think what you said is like, it's right on the head. I also think that because I do have friends that live in other parts of the world and they don't see the stuff that I see. And I think that has to do with a lot of the stuff is still made here. Right. Like we get first crack at it. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. And I definitely think COVID was like a hard reset for buyers out here. Like it just slowed everything down. Resellers just like they just didn't feel like flipping shoes was the move anymore. Like I don't know what they're buying up now, but it's definitely not shoes. And in terms of like other countries that are open, just like us, like Taiwan, for example, they've been open, the same amount of time as China, but they don't get the product. They don't see as much of the stuff as I see. There's still some of it, but it's not as much because it's made here. So like we have the most quantity of anywhere in Asia. And because China is such a big like hub for Nike out here or sneakers in general. But yeah, it's kind of nice. Like it's slowed everything down. Like resellers aren't as crazy and my buying mentality isn't as like, oh, let me just buy first and think later. Right. Like now I can I can walk into a store and think about, do I really need these pollens? Do I really need these lightning fours? Do I really need these seafoam greens? Like, you know what? They'll be here. They'll be here next week. Let me think about it for a little bit. And I mean, and I know you know this, and we're at that age where it's like that's how it used to be, right? And like that's how buying sneakers used to be. That's how buying 11s used to be, right? You didn't have to like line up in malls. I mean, you could. I mean, the first day definitely, but like 2 weeks later, you could still think about it. And it's I remember when it used to be like that, and it's kind of nice that I mean, it's not nice that the pandemic happened, but it's nice that like an effect of that was that there was like a hard reset and people just kind of like slowed down and just started going back to normal again.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that's, and maybe that's just me being nostalgic, but I also think that that's just a better experience for a consumer, right? It's a terrible experience to go on the sneakers app and, it's like waking up and living in Las Vegas and like having a slot machine outside your, apartment. And every morning you pull the handle hoping that you win. And occasionally you get just enough back to keep you coming back. And like that experience is, I understand why that happens and why they do that, but it's absolutely terrible. Like the long-term effects of that, I think, are absolutely terrible for both the footwear industry as a whole and for Nike consumers specifically. But because it's less about my nostalgia for the good old days of walking into a store and finding, True Blue threes back in 2001, on sale for $100, like, of course I want that. Like I'll always want that. But like, I really think that without the experiences that you're having there and seeing the product and getting to feel it in hand, you're not going to grow the audience. And maybe right now, there's just so much product there that you're even the diehards that have to have the lightning and have to have the pollens. Maybe they're going to pick up a pair, but like, in general, like if people feel like they have to make a decision right then and there, eventually they move away from saying yes to that decision because they just feel, hey, I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want to have to be forced to make this decision every time I think about sneakers.
Right. And it's like when you get that early access for a pair that you didn't even want, it's like, I have to buy it. Like when was the last time I hit on sneakers app? I have to get this right now. And it's just like, what kind of mentality is that? Where it's just like, I have to do it because I'll never get this chance again.
Yeah.
And then my buddies over at the Sneak Disc, they kind of talked about this last week actually, and he was saying how like, yeah, but you just love that feeling of like getting something that someone else that doesn't have. And we all like, as a person who loves sneakers, you love it when someone's like, oh, you got those. Oh man, I struck out on those. But even if shoes are sitting, you can still get that feeling. Like the Travis, the Virgil 2s, like not everyone is getting those. Yeah. Right. Like if you're wearing those and I see them, that's still going to be a limited shoe. That has nothing to do with you wearing lightnings and I have lightnings and we go to the same show and we go to the sneaker con and we're both wearing them. Like, but that's not the same thing, right? Like if you wear Off-White 2s to sneaker con, people are going to be like, oh, Nick's got the Off-White 2s. Like you can still bring out heat, like in this day and age of shoes sitting. I don't think that changes anything.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's an interesting kind of, people definitely choose what they want to wear, what they want to buy in different ways too, right? Like we do a format of the podcast. It's kind of like a sneaker draft with the 3 or 4 of us. And,
I love it, by the way. I'm not competitive. You need to have more people. You need to have more people on because it goes like you come back too quickly. You got to have the last episode I was listening, you guys, I think it was for the one, was it for the ones? But you guys were like, oh, we need to have more people on here to like make it a little harder.
Yeah, we got to get you on one time for it. It's a blast because
100. I'm in.
It makes me think differently because I forget so many of the colorways and the stuff that's out there, right? Like we all have our kind of narrow lanes of what we like and what we go after. And then like, we're paying attention to things, but like the more you take into your memory, the more you're forgetting about something that happened 10 years ago. And
right.
So like that to me is always interesting because Robbie looks at it like it's a competition. I don't look at it that way. And I honestly I of course love certain shoes like, Shattered Backboards just because I'm a Giants fan and it's a Jordan 1 and that's like a great shoe regardless of if it's hyped or not. I would love to have that shoe. And, but like we really pick different stuff all the time that I think none of us would. Occasionally you have shoes that are like, this is the shoe of the draft that you want to have. But most of the time I'm pretty happy with the shoes that I get to pick, even if they're not the hyped up shoes, because it's just, I don't know, like that's what I like. And I think that's an interesting piece and kind of like to your Shanghai sneakers group, right? Like we, within the Sneaker History Discord community, we basically, look out for each other, right? There's 200 some people in there. And I would say, it's still a small percentage of people that hit on the sneakers app because that's just how it is. But generally speaking, almost every other day or maybe even every day at this point, we're seeing people like hit for somebody else that wanted their entry. And then you get that back when you really want something. And I think that is also one of those nostalgic things that I miss about going and lining up for a pair of shoes back in the day where you weren't competing with online too. You just were going to line up with your buddies. And if you wanted me to get your size and I was in the front of the line and I thought like my size was going to be around or I wasn't interested, we were still lining up with each other to try to help each other get a shoe. And I think that's like kind of hopefully where things are headed, beyond like the experiences that you're saying you're having now, because that's definitely another missing piece from what brings people into being a fan of sneakers, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been on IG. I mean, I haven't been on IG for that long, but since like 2015 or 16 was like my first post, and I would say most of my followers on IG. I mean, I would say like 90% of it is in the States. And my buddy who owns this store called Doe, it's a sneaker boutique. I like to call it like the Kith of China. Like they have like a coffee shop and they do streetwear stuff, but it's their own brand. It's all in-house stuff. Like it's their own brand. They sell sneakers there. They do collabs with like big names like Pata. They've done collabs with like Nike and stuff before. So, it's a really cool store. It's a really awesome vibe. And I've been shopping there for a long time. And the other day he came to me, the owner of the store came to me because I've been friends with him for a while. He said, we're going to get the Patas. We're going to get the Patas. And because he's good friends with, the owner of Pata. He's like, we're going to get the Patas. You should bring your sneaker group and you should come and hang out. And like, you guys can all get pairs. And I was like, my sneaker group? I was like, oh, shoot, I don't really have a sneaker group. Like, I was like, my sneaker group is like, it's like all on Instagram. Like they're not coming here to get shoes. And I thought about it and I was like, why don't I have a sneaker group? Like there should be a sneaker group. And then I just started gathering people in my contact list that I've known that I knew were into sneakers, but I've only just chatted with them individually over it, never in a group setting. And over like 2 weeks, we got like 100 people. And then the group is super chill and it's low key and it's not high pressure and people aren't in there trying to sell anything. It's just, people are in there showing all sorts of, like, people were in there showing Clarks, people were in there showing Adidas, showing, Y3, Ultra Boost. Like, it's just people just into what they like. And then I was like, hey, so Doe's going to be doing, it's a first come, first serve for the Pata, the blue ones. there's a QR code to sign up, and the owner was like, sent me the QR code first so we could all sign up. And we got like 25, 26 people out there. And then there's that photo I sent you, and we all got a pair. It wasn't backdoor or anything. It wasn't like shady. It was because like they had a lot of quantity in China, actually. Like the orange ones are still sitting. So like, I don't want people thinking like, oh, you know, the store did some shady business and was like backdooring pairs to you guys. Like we got in, we went there and lined up. We got a ticket. It wasn't a raffle. It was just to get a ticket in order of buying. And we all went and we all got our pairs, and everyone was super happy. And it was just like a little hangout. Like there's a lot of people in that group I've never met before, but I've talked to. And it was a nice, like genuine moment. And in this day and age, like, I mean, you understand, like just buying shoes for retail is a win. Like that's like hitting on sneakers to me. Like that's like hitting on the app for me, right? Because it's like I actually get a chance to buy what I want and not have to go on StockX or pay or go on eBay. Like I can just get it for retail. Like that's a win.
Yeah, definitely, man. And to be able to have the community, you know, like that's one of the things that for me, like, you know, even just doing this podcast and having the Discord group now that we have, you know, that's just been like a constant kind of support group for, you know, just, you know, it sounds bad, but it's like, it's not really that serious. Like I love shoes and this is the world that I choose to make my profession, but it's not like that serious for me to buy shoes. Like I rarely am like, I rarely pay resell. I rarely feel like I have to have something. It's more just being around it and being a part of it. And, you know, I have enough shoes to wear, and, you know, it's great to get stuff. And I love the feeling, just like you're talking about, but also like having the group of people that just, you know, appreciates each other and looks out for each other. And, you know, I think that's like a missing component when you don't really get that in terms of the internet. You know, it's tough. We're getting it now with like Discord communities and Instagram and Facebook groups and all these different places where we're kind of coming back to this community aspect. But that's definitely been a missing piece for so long. For, you know, I mean, look, I was a you know, employee number 9 at StockX when it started. I definitely didn't think that it was going to become as crazy as it has, but it was. I also think that it was going to happen regardless, right? Because a lot of people are like, "Do you feel any regret? Do you feel bad that you made, you know, resell such a big deal?" And it's like, resale was already happening. Like the market existed. That's why the company was built, right? This wasn't a new thing. This was just us making this new thing easier. So
it's not like StockX created the resale market.
Yeah. And like, I mean, I think really resale took like a leap in like the 2012 Jordan releases, right? Like any of those shoes that came out, you know, when the black and the black cement, whatever 4s came out, like people were buying, like I bought multiple pairs because I was like, well, I'll never, you know, I might never see this again. Cause at that time they weren't retroing everything. Right. So,
right.
By nature is like, okay, I bought 5 pairs of that shoe. Cause it's like, this is it. Like, I don't need any more the rest of my life. And then of course you're like, well, there's other stuff that's going to come out. I don't need to have 5 pairs of the same shoe. I kept a few of them. I traded one pair, sold a pair. And now next thing you know, it's like all these other people are also doing the same thing. And now you have a resale market that just doesn't have a place to live other than eBay. And eBay back then was still questionable on a lot of the fakes and the counterfeit stuff and getting scammed and all that. So it's an interesting evolution. I've gotten a few cardboard filled shoes before off eBay. Yeah, I mean I think they've improved upon it. I've really been lucky. Like the only time I got a fake pair of shoes, I responded. This is probably 10 years ago now. I responded to the person right away and was like, the pair that you sent me is fake. Like I'm going to send it back. I just want your money back. I don't want to report this or anything. This is a counterfeit shoe and I don't want it. Cause it was really obvious to me. And she messaged back and was like, "Oh, I was selling him for my son, just send him back. I'll refund your money now. I didn't realize that. He left him here and he went away to college and I just sold him." And I was like, cool, no big deal. As soon as I got the money back, I sent the shoes back. It was like, that was my experience with fakes. And I haven't had any, obviously when I worked at StockX, people would try to pass all sorts of weird stuff. And, we had people saying like, "Oh, we sent them, some random thing." That's like, no, that's not how it works. Like maybe somebody's taking it off the UPS or FedEx truck or something, but highly unlikely there too. So the scammers are always going to be there. But I guess like the last thing that I did want to touch on, because we talked about the situation with was it Daryl Morey with the Rockets, and speaking about China, whenever that was, 8 months ago, 6 months ago, even longer, I guess.
Yeah, it was the beginning. Yeah, it was almost a year ago. It was the beginning of the NBA season last year.
Yeah. So now we're kind of in that same position again, now with Enes Kanter speaking up. And I just, like how much more of this can go on and the NBA still be, a thing in China, right? Like, especially as we're talking about like the pride behind the athletes and buying the product because of the athletes and I'm just like, all right, what's going to happen from this? Because I feel like there's got to be ramifications of this stuff. And I know that it's something that like you can't get the two sides to talk about this on equal ground because people have fundamentally different views on what's going on. And I honestly, like I'm just somebody that's, seeing a little bit here and there, and it's even hard to process everything that goes on anyway. But the one other thing, other than the Enes Kanter stuff, I forget his name now, but the Adidas athlete that they signed one of the Olympic players, and there was some sort of pushback on his salary or his bonus or something. I don't know if you remember that. It was within the last month or two.
I don't recall that story.
Okay, maybe I'll see if I can find it real quick while I have you discuss the Enes Kanter thing, and let me know what you think.
Oh man, so like it's really crazy because and I posted about this before, where it's just like China's cancel culture is really strong out here. I mean, when we were talking about the political stuff with Nike coming out with their statements about the cotton issue, like their influencers left. Like I remember telling you, like 50, like their biggest guys all left. And so like, it's not like, oh, let's just, brush it under the rug and hope it goes away. I mean, it happened with that sort of with like the Morey situation. The Sixers, you still can't watch them on TV here. You can get,
oh wow,
you can get all the other teams, but no, they so like he used to be with the Rockets at that time. And so the Rockets were canceled, like all their sponsorships gone. You wouldn't see any of their logos anywhere. But after he went to Philly, that's what happened to Philly. So the Rockets are back and Philly is canceled here. So you can't get any Philadelphia stuff.
Wow.
You can't watch their games. And I play fantasy basketball, and I'm like, I got Tyrese Maxey on my team. I want to watch him play. Nope, can't get Philly games on TV. And it's the same with Kanter. Like after what he said, all Boston games are gone. They're wiped from. It's like they don't even exist here. And so, China cancel culture is real. It's legit because it's not just social media canceling you. It's like the government canceling you. And so you can't get any of that stuff. It becomes really tricky when Kanter calls out Nike and LeBron, because I almost feel like it's like a no-win situation. Because if they don't respond to Kanter, then they're acknowledging it. But if they respond to Kanter, then they're toast. So in my opinion, I doubt they say anything, because they didn't say anything the first time, right? When Morey said all that stuff the first time, no one came to his defense. And I know it sounds messed up, and I know it sounds kind of crazy. It's like, oh, how can the NBA stand up for this? How can how can Adam Silver like tiptoe the line? And when they asked Steve Kerr, I think Steve Kerr's like press conference was like one of the biggest ones because he was so like careful with his words, right? He was so calculated with what he was saying that people could easily tell that he didn't want anything to happen to him or the team. And then I mean, Cantor legit called them out personally, like name by name. Yeah. It wasn't just like this is happening. It was like, hey, at LeBron, hey, at Nike, hey, at CEOs of Nike, like, what are you going to do about it? And there hasn't been anything said. And I think that as ironic as it is, has pretty loud actions, because by them not saying anything means that they're not going to acknowledge it because they know it's going to affect them.
Obviously, I love Nike, and there's so much nostalgia there. As you said, like, they're the best marketing company on the planet, right? Like, they're just incredible at what they do. But it's really interesting because they're so selective about who they back and when they back people, right? It's like, I don't know how to feel about it, because there are times when, when the Colin Kaepernick thing is happening, right? Like, I'm, being a 49er fan, I'm a huge Colin Kaepernick fan before all of what happened. I haven't really watched, other than like, probably like half of a Super Bowl with some family. Like, I haven't watched any football. Like, I just don't pay attention to American football anymore. And part of that is because like, I just think that it was obvious that the league was blackballing Colin Kaepernick, right?
And I can't believe he hasn't had a tryout or anything in all of these years. Like, how is that possible? Yeah. Like, did they just behind closed doors just all decide we're not even gonna attempt to bring this guy back?
I mean, they have to, even if they don't even have to talk about it. Like, there's such a, it's kind of like this Inez Cantor thing, right? Like, there's such a political, there's so much politics that go on behind the scenes, and you got to, I think, tie in that, America's going through like Trump as president and all these things, and kind of, with that. So like, once it becomes like, hey, you're either against the president of the United States or you're, against Kaepernick, or right, you're for Kaepernick or you're for the president and the NFL and blah blah blah. Like, once it became such a big spectacle, then it just becomes such a sensitive thing for any team to even go down that path. I feel like Nike obviously like steps in and says, hey, we're going to back Kaepernick, and we're going to put him in our, advertisements, and we're going to support him and his brand and all these things, which is great, right? Like, he doesn't, honestly, he probably doesn't, live the way he lives without that, monetary backing from Nike and the sponsorship, because clearly he's an incredible athlete to begin with, right? Like, he might not be your typical quarterback that, Tom Brady throwing touchdown passes, but like, he was relatively well loved, by a lot of people, and took the 49ers with a team that probably shouldn't have made it to the Super Bowl. So I think
that's against my Ravens too.
Yeah. And, like, it's such a weird thing, because like, part of me is like, I want to support by, buying and, supporting the people that I care about and appreciate. But at the same time, it's kind of like, like what you're saying with, Jordan sitting in the stores. If everybody is kind of just doesn't care one way or the other about that brand, whether that's Nike or Jordan or Adidas or anybody, then all these marketing things just kind of become they feel like just marketing things to me, I guess, is what I'm trying to say in a long-winded way. And that's an unfortunate thing, because whether it was true or not, I always felt like everything that Nike was into and did was, you know, like you align with
right?
the beliefs
like,
or something, right? Like at least that's what
coming from a place that you agree with, and it's aligned and genuine and real. And
yeah, I don't know, man. It's a really interesting thing.
It's tough because it's like, I mean, I am not a very political person, whether it's U.S. politics or Chinese politics, and I always try to steer away from it, because it's like politics and religion is like where people get into fights and arguments all the time, right? So,
Yep.
But when it's funny because once you throw in the monetary aspect of it, like, you're gonna get a lot of people just biting their tongues, you know, and it's normally some of these athletes are super outspoken, but then all of a sudden, like, you're gonna hit them in their wallets, and it's like, ooh, I don't think I'm gonna talk this.
Yep. Yeah, it's really something, and I, you know, like, I don't really have like a, you know, a response to it in a sense. So I don't know if you probably saw, of course you saw, but like, it's like that Sports Illustrated thing coming out with, you know, what's his name from Jordan Brand, you know, saying that he killed a guy as a teenager.
Oh, and yeah. I saw that.
Like, I still don't know how I really want to process that. Right. Part of me is like Howard White. Part of me is like, okay, I'm happy that you made a life for yourself and got out of that situation. Yes, of course. But at the same time, you killed somebody. Like, that's insane.
And you got away
like,
with
I can't.
It. And you got,
yeah. And, you know, and just, I don't know. It's just such a weird thing. And it's, the funny thing is, like, I feel like we're getting more and more of these, like, just because we have such transparency into so much stuff going on, like, you know, not to dismiss, you know, what people have as opinions, or like, you know, someone wanting to speak out, like the Inez Cantor thing. Someone of Inez Cantor's, let's say, basketball skill level and social clout and all of that 10 years ago, he would not have any platform that would give him that
100%.
time, right? So now 100%. We're getting to see everybody's little things, and now every little thing has to become this big decision over, like, you know, or at least that's the way people are putting it. It's like big decision over, do I support this? Do I support that? And it's like, you know, sometimes you just want to buy a pair of shoes because you like the pair of shoes, you know. It's like, I mean, that sounds really horrible, like, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
No,
but
Nick, I totally get it. It's like, yeah, what he says is really messed up. What was potentially happening, or, I mean, I don't know, but like the whole, you know, cotton issue, like, did that, like, I was thinking about the cotton issue. I was reading about it, and then Purple Metallics dropped. It's like, and I'm gonna go get them. It's
yeah. Yep.
What I feel, like, socially about these like about these topics and issues. Yeah, I will read about it. I will understand it, but that's not going to stop me from doing what I like. And what I like is, I like to buy shoes, and I know it sounds messed up because those things should be tied together, but I see them as separate entities.
Yeah. Do you see, like, obviously it's I assume it's much different there versus here, where we have, you know, like, I know cancel culture in China is obviously much more, it appears from here to be more of a government level, or a bigger, it's a massive thing, right? As opposed to, you know, I feel like here in the States, you know, like, somebody wants to cancel the local pizza spot every, you know, couple of months because whatever, you know, they put pineapples on pizza and people don't like pineapples on their pizza. But like, there's so many little things that become like just blown out of proportion here, where I just feel like if people just learn to talk to each other and have conversations, we wouldn't have to deal with so much of this stuff. Do you see, like, smaller level?
No, like when people get canceled here, like they get like canceled, like legit canceled. Like an actor was like found out for like doing a lot of like shady stuff, like sexual harassment stuff. Like he got locked up. Like he got canceled not just by his followers. He got like his social media platforms got erased. Like he can't go on Instagram. He can't go on Weibo. He can't post anywhere. And he's in jail. He's sitting in jail until his hearing. And it's like that wouldn't happen in the States. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Like when you get canceled out here, it's the real deal. Like you are in serious trouble. And so like that the small type of like social media kind of like backlash stuff, yeah, it does happen. But if for some reason it reaches like kind of like disgracing like Chinese culture, or like you're a disgrace to like the Chinese society, that's when you're in trouble. That's when, so like that whole national pride thing is like it's like a real thing out here.
I don't know, man. I have so many thoughts around it in so many different ways, because it's all just added tension and added stress to everyone's lives that I think, especially here in the States, we've had the political tension over the past, 5 years, 6 years, whatever it's been, has just been almost unbearable. You can't avoid the conversations, and I don't necessarily, I'm very opinionated, but I don't like push my opinion on other people. I don't like go stand in line at Starbucks and say, you should be this and you should be that or whatever. But like, I do, I feel like I could avoid a lot of this, even in the news, right? Like, for prior to the last 5 years, you didn't have to, everything wasn't like the end of the world as we know it, kind of craziness in terms of like the way things are kind of almost like politicized and turned into ammunition against the people that you don't, agree with or have the same beliefs with. But I guess to kind of go in a different direction and get back to like sneakers in a more positive note, what are you looking at in the next, as the end of the year comes along? Anything that you're looking to pick up? Anything that you're excited about?
Yeah, so the end of the month, the Bordeaux ones, I really like that pair. I have a feeling those will probably sit out here, just judging by what everything else has been sitting. Like there's been more desirable pairs, and it's not like an OG colorway, right? So I'm pretty confident that those will sit. Let's see. I do like the Jordan 1, that Gore-Tex pair. I posted the other day, so like they released out here already.
Looks nice.
Yeah, I do like them. I like the white pair better than the black pair, so I do think I'll pick up that pair as well. I mean, cool gray 11s, I think that's a must. I am not going to try. I'm not even going to try to go for the off-white 2s, just because I don't know. It's something I think it would be a great piece to have in your collection, but I just can't imagine wearing it. I don't hate it. I like the design inspiration that Virgil went on Sean's page and did all like the explanation. That was really cool how he did that. So I do like the design elements of it. Like after seeing and understanding where he got, the idea for it, I like it a lot more, but it's just not a pair that I can imagine myself wearing.
Okay, so that gives me one more question, and then I'll let you go. You posted Union 4s recently, right? Obviously, in the States, brands like Union, Off-White, anything like that, Travis Scott, that stuff is, the first to go, sells out everywhere, basically. Are those like kind of collaborative partners for Nike, Are they big enough in China to, kind of get past the retro sitting on the wall? Or is it still like kind of hit or miss with some of those?
It's a little hit or miss. And the only reason why those shoes do well is because people follow prices in the States and people follow hype in the States. So people lost their mind for the unions there. People here have no idea if Union is a store, if Union is a person. They're like, who is you? What is Union, right? They have no idea. They have absolutely no idea. But they know that it's expensive and they know that it's limited. So then they want it. That colorway in particular they just did a random restock on the sneakers app, and for some reason I thought it was only going to be sneakers app, and my buddy was at the main flagship store, and he saw like there were small sizes left, like 6 and under, but the fact that they were still even in store is pretty amazing. Yeah. So like Off-White stuff, obviously Travis stuff, that stuff will fly. Last time when the Travis lows dropped, my buddy saw some of the hoodies and the shirts and the shorts still in the store. So I don't know if those things would instantly sell out in the States. They probably do, but those were still in store. And the reason why I said hit or miss is because some collabs don't fly, like the Billie Eilish stuff. So her whole collection sat here. The 1 KOs, those sat, and then the 15s. But the 15s were really expensive. The retail on them was $250 here. So, people weren't really moving for that. Just the high price tag, and also like they were just like, like I don't really know Billie Eilish. Like even for me, like I thought the 15s looked okay. I thought the KOs were okay too, but I wasn't gonna go out of my way to really buy them. It was cool to see them in stores. The Aleli May 14s, those sat. I picked up a pair of those. I like that pair. But yeah, like, so it's kind of hit or miss. It depends on how popular they are and whether China or Chinese people have any connection to them, which, for Aleli May and Billie Eilish, they didn't. But for the other stuff, it's more like the price and the how limited it is to get. Like those Off-White 2s. I mean, stuff like that will never sit anywhere, right?
Yeah. Well, man, it's been awesome to chat with you. I guess let everyone know where they can find you, and I guess a little bit about your group too, just in case people from Shanghai are listening and they want to meet up with you guys.
So so you can find me at Shanghai Soul IG. I'm not on Twitter. I don't do YouTube. Like people are always like, why don't you get on that? Like, why don't you do YouTube reviews? You could like do like sneaker walkthroughs and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. I'm lazy. I have a full-time job. Like I like what I'm doing right now, and we'll see what happens. But that's just not my lane. I know my lane is just posting pictures, and it was funny because Cousteau posted some of my stuff. Like he posted a thing on his talk on his YouTube video, and then people were like, "Yo, you should do something like that." And I'm like, "That's just not my thing. I don't do like the inspirational quotes with sneakers and stuff like that." I just stick to Instagram, man. I just take photos. I just try to show people what's out here. I know some people get salty, get a little upset, and man, that day Nice Kicks reposted my picture. I got 300 DMs when I woke up, Nick. 300 DMs, all right? And only about 10 of them were about, that's really cool, awesome content. The other 290 were, where can I send my money? I'll pay you to go get shoes for me. Let me know how much it is. Here's my PayPal. Like, send me an invoice.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm not in it for the money, like, people are like, don't you want to make money? Like, you would make a killing. I'm like, actually, I wouldn't make a killing because shipping is so expensive out here. I wouldn't make that much money, and it's not even worth my time. And my wife would kill me if I walked home with like 40 bags of sneakers. she literally, I'd be living on the streets. I'm not even joking about that.
Yeah. Well, and to your point about the YouTube videos, right? Like Cousteau's been making videos for 12 years. So like the editing and the filming, and it's like the amount of work, it's hard enough for me to like create podcasts, and this will be a YouTube video too. But the amount of work that goes into it for me is like, man, do I really want to keep doing this? Like, even though I enjoy it, it's still just so much work and time that goes into it to create it, to make it something that people really enjoy. So I totally agree. Like you got to make sure you follow Jay, but don't ask to be hooked up with stuff. That's the one rule.
I will say though, for like everyone that I've chopped it up with on podcasts and stuff, Nick, and this is to you and your crew. Maybe not your Discord of 200, but your crew definitely. Let me know if there's anything you guys want out here that you may not be able to get in the States, because I always want to like help where I can with my friends and stuff. So if there's anything that you see that I post that you're like, oh man, like after shipping, it'll still be cheaper than getting it in the States, just let me know and I'll see what I can do.
Cool. We appreciate that. Definitely, man. And honestly, I was thinking about it. We'll have to figure out a way to, like, we do, like every month we do like trivia nights and Zoom calls with our community. It'd be cool to have you come on and just be a part of that too, because I know that like people would love to kind of, just everybody loves having like somebody else in the room to kind of talk to and hear about, because they're like, it's such a different experience for you. So maybe we can get that worked out in the next few months.
For sure, man. Like sneaker draft, let me know, because I listen to all the sneaker drafts. I love, I think I messaged you when you guys did like the fives. That one was awesome. Yeah. Like I really love it. It's so cool because it takes me down memory lane. And sometimes when you guys are nominating shoes, I was like, oh my God, I forgot about that pair. Yeah. And then there was like there was a pair that like no one mentioned. I was like, how did no one not say this? Come on. Like, and so, yeah, like I would love to be a part of that discussion one time. And then, yeah, man, I don't post to make people upset, like I'm just trying to show you guys what's out here. I know sometimes I can get a little snarky in my comments. They're like, oh, like someone was like, oh, what will it take? What will it take to get these shoes? And I was like, a ticket and a hotel in Shanghai, and then, like a round trip ticket and a hotel. Like that's what it'll take. And people are like, "You're a dick, man! Like you're such an asshole." Sometimes. It's just like after like 500 DMs of people trying to get me to buy them shoes. It's just like what it's like turned me into like some like salty dude now. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to show what's ahead in the future, what could be for the States, hopefully one day soon.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for doing that. I know I appreciate following you and seeing all the stuff as you come across it. And thanks for spending time with me to chat today. Make sure that you follow Jay on Instagram, Shanghai Soul. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. And if you like this podcast, definitely give us some feedback, whether that's in a review, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you want to find us. We're kind of all over. And hopefully we'll see Jay on one of the next episodes of My Starting Five. We'll catch everybody on the next episode. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.